Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of whatever this is called. I'm your main man, Luke Maestas, and this is.
I am Riley Rome.
Well, today is going to be an interesting one because I'm about to prove to you guys why football is much harder than basketball.
And I'm here to prove to you he doesn't know what he's talking about.
And I do. So, without further ado, let's get started.
All right, basketball versus volleyball, or basketball versus football. What is the harder sport? It's basketball. I mean, you can say whatever you want about football. Basketball, I feel like just as a whole, you need more technique to play. I think there's different levels of pressures in the sports, but the things you need to do, you need to be more of an all-around player in basketball. Like a quarterback is not playing the same position as like a dime, and then a wide receiver isn't playing the same position as a linebacker. Like they are learning their one specific thing. But when you're a basketball player, you kind of just have to go out there and you have to be able to prepare to mix things up and play in a different position for a second or move over and shift because there's a lot less room to be stagnant in your specific position.
For sure. But, football does that as well because, it's much harder to do that. The quarterback has a lot more responsibilities because you have to control the plays, you have to control the passing game. And on the defensive line, you have to make sure that all of your men are lined up or else you're going to get a false start call.
Okay.
Or
Your example is just the quarterback, though. The quarterback is a hard position. Let me make that clear. I'm aware. But you're only using one position as an example. I am telling you that if you compare every basketball player and you put them all together compared to every football player put together, basketball is more difficult because there's more each position has to be aware of in every single position rather than, yes, the quarterback position is hard. It is. I would even go as far as say the quarterback position is more difficult than some other positions in basketball. But as a whole, if we're talking about the entire sport here, a team as a whole, basketball is harder to learn and do than football.
Well, I disagree with that because, to my point, on the offensive side, because you have the wide receivers, you have the running backs, you have the tight ends. Each specific position has a goal in mind, and that is to get across to the end zone. But how it is accomplished it varies between different positions.
This is how I feel about football. I like football. Don't get me wrong. I think it's fun to watch. I'm a fan. Skol, let's go Vikings. But I think when you're playing basketball, and I played basketball for years. My mother played basketball. My grandmother played basketball. It's in my blood. Basketball, to learn how to play basketball correctly, there is a lot of finesse and technique and being aware of your entire court. Every single position needs to be aware of where everybody is at any given point for that. I feel like football's a little bit different for that. I think there's a lot of pressure in football, but it's like, hey, ramming your car into a wall is like something is hard to do. And that's how I think of football is like you're ramming your car into this wall, you're trying to get past the wall. You can kind of turn in position, but your goal is to go straight. Like this is what you're doing. And with basketball, you're kind of trying to move things around and sometimes you're going backwards and sometimes you're like maneuvering and then like you can only be in specific areas of the place for a certain amount of time. Then you have to be aware of how many people are on this side and is that person moving over or are we playing man or zone or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, well, you do the same thing with your running backs. You have to be in a specific position for a specific play. And you have to go to a specific spot for the wide receiver position in order to make that pass, or else you're going to get intercepted every single time.
But that's one position, and I will continue to say this forever, that if you can only use one position as an example versus everything else, then you can't win because you're comparing it to that only one position, you're not comparing the entire sport because not every single position, yes, you should be aware. You should always be aware of where everybody is on the field. Like, you really should. But not every position has to do it to the degree as other positions. And I feel like in basketball, you kind of evenly, like, yes, the point guard takes control and stuff, but, like, everybody has the chance to have the ball and have those decisions. You have to make those decisions. And I feel like as much as you can move backwards in football, obviously, if you're trying to move forward, you can move backwards, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot more common to move around kind of that way in basketball. You're more being able to pull backwards, forward, side, than football a lot of the time.
Absolutely, but you got to keep in mind that football is also a team effort sport. But with being said, with a team effort sport, you have to rely on your offense. You have to rely on your defense. There's so many moving parts to win a football game that make it so more difficult. And you also have to keep in mind special teams as well. Whether your punter puts the kick right in the right position. So the receiving team doesn't go down the field and potentially score a touchdown or lets their offense go. Because it's much more difficult to win a team sport rather than a individual sport like basketball, where you can rely on certain players like Nikola Jokic. If you don't have Nikola Jokic out there on that court, the Nuggets won't be in the same position as where they are right now.
That's like saying if Bo Nix wasn't out on the Broncos, they would. It's the same thing. It's the same thing for. Let's use Broncos as an example. If Bo Nix wasn't their QB, how good would they be playing?
But defense wins championships. Defense wins championships.
Okay.
But defense wins championships.
That's
the reason why the Broncos are 8-2.
Okay.
That's why they're 8-2.
But Bo Nix is the reason I believe defense is the most important position of any sport. It's the same way for basketball. Defense is what wins games for everything. But, and it hurts me to say, but it's true. How are you going to score points? How do you score points?
You have to run across the field
with what
right
side?
to the end zone on the offensive side. But you can also score on the defensive side with interceptions.
You can,
and with special teams. All three positions have the chance to score a touchdown. But it doesn't happen as a lot? No. But all three positions have the chance to get those points right in the end zone.
Basketball is the same. Even you using as the puncher as an example, what do you think free throws are? Standing there while everybody watches you to see if you score a point for your team.
What do you think field goals are? Field goals. What do you think that is?
What happens more?
You can potentially have your kick block. You can have your kick block.
What happens more? What happens more? Free throws or what happens more? Free throws.
Free throws, because basketball is a fast-moving game.
Way faster. Do you understand how much harder it is to keep track of what's going on in basketball compared to football? Because football, I'm not saying it's not a hard sport. Don't put me on a team or anything. I would die. But I will say this: basketball is a lot more fast-moving. Football, you have pauses. Even if it's a part of the game, it's incorporated into the game. You have your pauses, you have your separation. Basketball, it is constantly moving until it's the end of the quarter, end of half, end of the game, or it's a timeout. Those are the only times the game is stopping. And then you're just going. And then people are cycling into the game while the game is currently happening, and you need to make sure who's moving in and blah, 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 blah. And with football, even you have that pause, and you know exactly who is on the field at any given point. In basketball, it's like somebody's moving in, somebody's getting taken off, who's getting moved in? Do I have to move around? Am I playing a different position now? Because even at lower levels, and I think this is important because we're comparing pro right now, even at lower levels, I think basketball is more difficult with football, because football, the growth that you have is very slow and steady in football. And basketball, you need to get really good really fast if you're going to compete, because it's fast and it's harder to learn in a shorter amount of time because it is so fast, and it's harder to do things fast than slow.
But for sure, but you only have a limited amount of time for each position on a football field, because you only have like 4 tries to get a first down. If your special teams have to punt the ball or has to, use that fourth chance, which is very, very rare, to get that first down.
And this is how I feel. There are no chances in basketball. You either score or you don't at any given point in the game. There isn't, well, this is your allotted time, and now this is your allotted time. Like, there is a certain amount of time you can, spend going over that side, but it's like, if you score 50 times in a row or you lose 50 times in a row, point blank, if you aren't creating an opportunity for yourself, you're not going to get one. Because in football, after you score and then blah, 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 it goes to the other side. It just does. Unless you screw up so bad that it ends up on the other side, then football is it's almost like handing you over to, it's like, now let's see what you can do. Hey, this is now, let's see what you can do. With basketball, it's like, sucks to suck, go get the ball.
Absolutely. But you got to think, too, what do you think the final 2 minutes are? 2-minute warning, you have final 2 minutes to score a touchdown, but you also have 2 minutes to put up at least 20 points. What do you think is much more harder to do? Get a ball right into the end zone or shoot at least 20 baskets within 2 minutes?
I think in basketball, those last 2 minutes, and I stand by this, the last 2 minutes are way more difficult in basketball, because that is a time of, if the game is close, if somebody scores a touchdown in the last 2 minutes, you're like, if they're ahead, that's pretty much game. In basketball, it's like, you could be down in the last 30 seconds. As long as there's a 5-point difference, there's a possibility things can change. You have to be on the entire time, and you should be on in football all the time. But with basketball, it's like there can be a change of who's winning in like 15 seconds.
But absolutely. But I just wanted to leave you with this one final point. The 2014 Super Bowl. What do you think happened
11
in that
years
end
ago?
zone? Yes, in that end zone. What do you think Russell Wilson did? He could have easily ran the ball, but he didn't. He passed it to Malcolm Butler, which made them lose the game. This is much more harder.
You're talking about a game, your example is 11 years ago. I could probably pick any game from the NBA a week ago as an example of why it's harder in the last 2 minutes. And your example is over a decade ago.
But you got to still think anybody can win on a given Sunday. That's what makes it more difficult. I mean, you can't really take advantage of playing the New York Jets because what do you think we saw against Cleveland or the Bengals? You know, they are credited with the Jets 2 wins, and they added on to their, loss column. They beat both teams in Ohio. Anyone can win on a given Sunday, and I'm just going to leave it like that. Anyone can win on a given Sunday.
Both sports are hard. It might just be in different ways, but we can all agree basketball is better, even if you don't agree it's the harder sport.
But at least we can all agree that we're not Nico Harrison and training Luka Doncic.
Jeez, yeah, no. If we want to talk about basketball being hard, management, what happened, and good for the team. They have been preying on it. Him getting fired, it finally happened.
Absolutely, and we're gonna bring that up in our next episode. Be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. Once again, I'm Luke Maestas with Whatever This Is.
And I am Riley Rome. Have a good one, y'all.
Peace out.